So it's not for kids.
I don't know if you're a big manga and anime person.
Yeah, I am. I wouldn't call myself like a weeb personally, but I follow it with interest. I follow a lot of things with interest. Just finished watching the first season, or I guess the only season of Chainsaw Man. So,
okay, nice job. I think anyone who's willing to watch Chainsaw Man is like weeb qualified, if that makes sense. Like I kind of understand not wanting to actually pull out the weeb card,
right?
But at the same time, if you wanted to claim it, it's there.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting thing where like I wouldn't really consider myself a hardcore anime guy, but like whenever I get together and talk to my friends about stuff we're watching, it like half the things I want to talk about is anime, or at least from Japan. So I guess I am. I guess I'll wear the label.
I have a very, very similar problem where it's like I basically am too inundated, but at the same time, I'm not inundated enough to be on the same level as like people that seemingly watch everything that comes out.
Right.
So I feel like I've missed like a ton of shows that I think are probably like mid, or I personally would not enjoy them.
Right.
But like the anime community at large feels like they're watching them. And I'm just like, that's not... Like, I'm in it for certain types of stories. And I haven't seen Chainsaw Man. That's kind of almost a good example in a way.
Right.
I'm curious about it. I tried giving it a shot. I know Kenny watched it, and he and another mutual friend of ours really, really hated it. Mm-hmm. But then I keep hearing from like very respectable people that they really like it. So I'm really kind of wondering if, you know, they were off base, and I could see myself enjoying it. But... I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, I'll say I didn't particularly care for Chainsaw Man, but I could see, and this isn't guarded praise. Like I mean this genuinely. I could see how someone would watch it and say this is the greatest thing ever, and I would be like, yeah, okay, great. You know, like that's not me being condescending. I understand why people would love it. It's just really not my thing. I really have kind of a sore spot for the weird trend through anime of kind of over sexualizing storylines and characters. And I just, the whole thing with the main character, the main character's motivation in the first season is he wants to touch breasts. And it's tonally kind of jarring with the rest of the show. It just didn't seem that interesting from a narrative standpoint. It didn't feel like the show was trying to say anything with it other than, hey, we're a bunch of young guys who made an anime and we think touching breasts is great. Which, you know, I agree. That's a stance I agree with. I just don't necessarily want it in my shows.
No, I'm totally seeing where you're coming from, where it's just kind of like, even if it's like hashtag relatable, like heteronormativity,
right?
It's just sort of like, it's so embarrassing. It feels so backwards post Me Too. And I don't know how much of it is like sensitivity to sort of the politics of the part of the world that we live in, and maybe in Japan it's like somehow different, but it's like at the same time you're like, I just know that like women in Japan are probably not thinking this is hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I have an online movie club where me and my friends get together, we watch stuff, and then we talk about them. And one of the things we're doing this week is we have a yearly tradition where we watch Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers, which is one of my favorite Christmas films, anime or otherwise. So that's an anime I love quite a bit.
You know what's the most insane coincidence of that is it is playing tonight at the sort of the local hipster movie theater club. Yeah, they're showing Tokyo Godfathers for pretty much the exact same reason. It's a Christmas movie. Yeah. I was trying to convince our gaming group to want to go. Yeah. Just a funny coincidence, but that's great.
I love Satoshi Kon. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite Christmas films. Like, so there's this phenomenon in anime circles based on a joke called anime ass anime, which is if you're an anime fan, you're kind of used to the tropes and the tonal shifts. And then you watch something that doesn't feel very anime. It doesn't have a lot of those weird, you know, jarring emotional swings. It doesn't have like kind of the wacky, broad humor. And you're like, oh, this isn't very anime. I can show this to my friends who aren't into anime and they'll love it. And this will be like the gateway drug to getting them into anime.
Right.
And then you start watching it with them. And within like 5 minutes, you realize, oh no, this is an anime-ass anime. Like all those things you thought it didn't have, you were just blind to it because you weren't looking at it through the eyes of someone who didn't watch it. The nice thing about Tokyo Godfathers is it is not an anime-ass anime. It is very much something that you can just watch regardless. So
I love that you're saying this because I don't know how I have not come across the term anime-ass anime before. That is exactly like the problem that I kind of keep running into with my partner because she comes from a background of like watching very little even cartoons. And I'm like just a huge animation head in general. And anime is obviously going to be a part of that. And so stuff comes up that is like very, very good, but it has anime-ass stuff in it. And but if you get over almost like its immediate confrontation with you as a viewer of being like, you better be indebted to anime culture in some way to accept this, you know what I mean? Like that's how it feels. It's so frustrating because it's like some stuff is like really, really good or really close to being like masterpiece stuff. And then it's just held back by those tropes.
Right.
But at the same time, totally. Satoshi Kon, pretty much everything he's done is an elevation of the medium.
Exactly.
He's one of the directors I became obsessed with relatively early in life, and I still am. I mean, he basically died too young at the height of his career, and he'd never made a bad movie. So it's good stuff. Since you're Kenny this week, so go ahead and read his line. You can introduce the show.
I got my podcast shoes on. I'm ready. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Shelf Stable. This is a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time. I'm your temporary stand-in host, Eize Basa. I'm here for Kenny, who's on paternity leave. They just welcomed a new member of their family.
That's right. And I'm the other host, Tom Bowers. Today, the topic we're talking about is games you play around the holidays, stuff you bring to your family's house, under the Christmas tree, what have you, that kind of thing. It's timely, right? But before we talk about that, we're just going to talk about some of the stuff we've kind of just been playing recently. Eize, thanks so much for being here, filling in for Kenny. What do you have for us this week? What have you been playing?
So I just had my local town's Discord server just had a big holiday meetup at a restaurant. And I say slightly with pride and slightly with shame, I'm known as the board game guy in the group. And I didn't bring anything. And usually in that situation, I'll just quickly make like a version of Skull, for example. And one of my favorite family memories is playing Skull with my family at a barbecue joint using Sweet and Low packets. But there were a lot of people. And so on the go, I created a version of a game from 2009 called Win, Lose, Banana. And if you follow me online, you know I'm a big fan of Win, Lose, Banana. I think it is the perfect distillation of social deduction games. I'm going to teach you how to play Win, Lose, Banana right now. It's usually a 3-player game. There are 3 cards. One's blank, one has a banana on it, and one has a crown on it. Everyone gets a card. If you have the crown, you flip it up, and then the entire gameplay is the other 2 people trying to convince you that they have the banana. And if you pick right, you both win. If you pick wrong, the other guy wins. And so we had about 6 or 7 people. So I just quickly made a version of Win, Lose, Banana, and we played it for a couple hours, and everyone had a great time. Like I said, I love it. It's just describing it. It sounds so stupid. And when you teach it to people, it's a game that nobody wants to play until the cards come out. And then it's like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. But at the same time, I want to convince you that I have the banana. I love it. It's almost like a thought experiment. How simple, how much can you pare down a social deduction game to its bare minimum? And that's this game. It's just lie to your friends, the board game.
Lie to your friends, the board game. I actually love that conceptually. I like the idea too, that it's like, it doesn't work if it becomes too metatextual, right, where you just like always know someone is like too good at lying. But in another way, that could be really, really interesting because it could start to like play into itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's not something that I bring out all the time because usually games have a slightly more context. But if you're alone with a couple people, maybe you're waiting on food at a restaurant, just grab some Sweet and Low packets, put an X on one and a circle on another, and you have a game to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this conceptually. I haven't played it myself, so I can't speak to like what the actual experience is like, but hearing you describe it has got me interested.
Well, when Kenny comes back, the three of us can hop into another recording and the three of us can try because it's a 3-player game.
That's true. Well, cool. So does this game have like a year and a designer?
Came out in 2009.
Win, Lose, or Banana, designed by Kris Cieslik. Yeah, I think he's like the guy that has worked with Chuddick. Kenny would know a lot more about the exact relationship of this guy with Carl Chuddick.
It's what a fun pair of designers to see on a box. Carl Chuddick and Kris Cieslik. It's like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah, exactly. The names are very fortunate. A lot of C's in there. And it looks like the card game version is published by Asmadi Games. Yeah. So it's in keeping with their brand there.
I think, I'm going to reach out to Kris and Asmadi. I think we should do like a premium top of the line reprint, like the Castles of Burgundy. Do like a $200 Win, Lose, or Banana set where it comes in like a banana wood box. Yeah. It has kind of a banana scent, a velvet line, gold foil cards.
Yeah, exactly. Cards. Yeah. Yeah. I love that conceptually, and I will back it on Kickstarter, even though that's something we notoriously disparage on this show.
Right, yeah.
That was Win, Lose, or Banana from 2009. I've been playing Twilight Struggle from 2005. This is designed by Ananda, Gupta, and Jason Matthews, published by GMT Games. And I actually could not figure out what GMT stands for.
Oh.
I still don't know. I'm going to assume it's like Gasty Minstrel Thames. That's my guess.
Is it? Could it be Greenwich Mean Time? Maybe. I know they're not based out of the UK, so that doesn't really make any sense. But
no, I actually think I looked this up before and it's suddenly coming back to me. But I think it was the last names of the three founders.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that would make sense, right? Gupta, Matthews. There's our GM.
Oh. For the designers, yeah. Maybe it is Gupta and Matthews, and there was some third guy. That's what they named him. That's where the T comes from.
This is great podcasting. Audience is loving this. The T stands for third guy. They just have a placeholder there in case they wanted to bring someone else in.
Yeah, they get more people ought to be doing that. Anyway, this is like the only GMT war game that I played, and actually, like the fact that I've played it and enjoyed it as much as I have probably should lead me to the conclusion that I ought to try out the other ones. But I don't know how many of them maintain this event points duality system with the cards, where every card has an event and then they have points. Right. And if it's an event that you control, you can decide to just use it for its points, kind of save the event for later, make your opponent have to suffer its consequences at some point. If it's an event your opponent is meant to control, you still get to do all the points, but before or after you use the points, you can let their event resolve. So a lot of interesting decision making have to do, where it's like, okay, how do I mitigate this effect? Right? Every single turn, it's like a pile of 7 mitigating factors, and it's almost better in some ways to have a hand that's full of nothing but your opponent's events, because you know exactly the order that they're going to come out and like what's going to happen, right? So it's just really delicious, enjoyable back and forth wargaming going on here that makes it clear to me why it's managed to stay like so highly ranked for so long. I assume you've played this one?
Yeah, it's a game that it's an atypical game for me to love. I usually like lighter fare. I don't do great with games like this. One thing you kind of mentioned this, but for a game that has so many moving parts, it's really elegant. Like there's so many little simple things that happen that just feel like, oh, that's so good. I have friends that are musicians, I have friends that are artists, I have friends that are writers. But the people who continuously blow me away are my friends who are game designers, where I play one of their games and it's like, how did you come up? You came up with this in your head? Like, how? I know you're an idiot. Like, how did you do this? Yeah. And there's so many moments. I don't know the guys behind Twilight Struggle, but there's so many moments in the game where you play and it's like, how did anyone come up with this? This is so simple and elegant and constricting. I really like Twilight Struggle a lot. I have it. I have it, my own personal copy, of course. I don't have anyone in my life right now that is up for a 4-hour 2-player game, but I play online. I have the digital editions as well. So
I was going to say the game I've been playing of it most recently is online, the digital edition. And yeah, even in that form, it like if you try and do the least amount of thinking on your turn possible, it still is probably going to be like 2 hours minimum. It just is. There's just so much literal history to kind of go through. There's just so many like interesting little like angles, almost like fun facts. I love the technicalities that allow you to literally force your opponent to lose the game with what they call DEFCON suicide, right? Like it's wonderfully thematic. It teaches you something in an interesting way, and it even kind of makes you feel like really fucked up because it's like the third world, as they called it back then, like really just it's a battleground, and it's like we now have the perspective to kind of look back at these events and kind of see them for what they were, which was like two imperial powers, using the rest of the world as a kind of chessboard. When that hits you, it's funny, I guess, like you can almost see like why they were motivated to do it in a sick way. It's a fantastic, interesting game. But yeah, I have to try out some other GMTs just to kind of see how they stack up in comparison. But this one in particular is obviously very legendary for literally sitting at the #1 spot on Board Game Geek for like a decade. So, and I don't know that I wouldn't put it at the top myself, but I think at the top 100, I think it earns its place.
Yeah, it's a great pick. On my very, very long list of projects of things that I've kind of played around with and then abandoned was doing a retheme that was set at like an 80s high school, like jocks versus nerds instead of the US versus the... my whole thing is, in the board game world, we talk about how theme doesn't matter. And I agree. Theme doesn't matter to people who love board games. But people who don't love board games, theme matters very, very much. And... I feel like I could definitely get some people in my life to play a 3-hour 2-player board game if the theme wasn't the Cold War. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, there aren't people in my life who would think of themselves as board gamers. And if it's like, hey, look, it's orcs versus elves, they'd be like, oh, okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, I'm always kind of half joking that more board games need to embrace the idea of wreath skinning as anime crap.
Right.
That's like not the genuine correct thing I want them to do, but I just think it would be hilarious if GMT was like, here's our anime branch where we literally just reskinned all our games in, it could be fucking like Attack on Titan,
right?
Twilight Struggle.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really make any fucking sense, but it would be really funny.
Yeah, this has been my go-to forever, which is please make a zombie version of every game. I don't like zombies, but my normie friends do, and they will play any zombie game. So please just give me Zombie Res Arcana or something so I can play this game with my friends.
They should retheme Twilight Struggle in Twilight, werewolves versus vampires. Exactly, love it. It's like right there. Oh yeah, come on. Yeah. And it's in high school, kind of like you were saying. Like you could have sub factions, right? Anyway. I would love this idea. When you mentioned board gamers don't care about the theme, but normies do, it's the same idea, right? It's like it's a board game-ass board game, right? The frowny Euro dude style of thing where it's like, what are we doing? Where's the theme? Why are we pushing cubes around? Why are we turning these into that? It's like, don't ask questions. It's board game. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Anyway, you could get away with a lot more with the Board Game Geek crowd than you can with the target perusers. Anyway, I think that's finally going to wrap myself up for Twilight Struggle from 2005.
Another game I played is, so I got together with my family for an early Christmas thing. And the question, everyone's bring the Christmas game. You're going to bring it, right? And I think what will surprise most people listening to this is that the Christmas game is Azul. So Azul is not a Christmas game, but back in 2017, I was... I had heard about Azul. This is when it was only in Europe. It wasn't available in the US, and I wanted to make a proxy version. not not to save myself money. In fact, it ended up costing me like $80 and by the end I just wanted to play it 6 months before I could actually get it. And so someone on Board Game Geek uploaded this, the Azul sheet, and you could use Ticket to Ride trains instead of tiles. But to me, that seemed a little inelegant. So I went to Home Depot and I bought a bunch of colored tiles, and I just made my own copy of Azul. And
it's like board game piracy,
Exactly. Yeah. I made a proxy version. And by the way, I have bought Azul like 4 times since then, over and over, including, by the way, Azul Travel, which I think I actually like a little bit more than the full-size Azul, because there's little divots on the board and the tiles rest in a very satisfying way. I wish they'd make a full-size version of Azul Travel with the little slots that you can put the tiles in. So yeah, I printed out the sheets. I had them laminated. I went and bought some wooden dowels to work as the factories. Again, I ended up spending like $80 on these tiles. And so the last thing I needed was a draw bag. And that's one of those things where it's like, I'll just go to the store and get one. But it's like, think about it. In your life, where would you go to go buy a draw bag for a board game? And like, a Crown Royal bag, it's like, well, I don't drink. So do I really want to buy a bottle of Crown Royal that I just have to give to somebody? I just want the bag. And so eventually, after looking around, like, again, it's something you think would be easy to find, but when you actually try to find it, it's hard. I was at a Christmas store, one of those year-round Christmas stores. And there was this big burlap bag that was, big enough to hold all the tiles. And it had Santa on it. It's like Santa's goodie bag. I think it was supposed to be like a stocking, maybe. And so that's it. And so that became the version of Azul that I have. And so I brought it home for Christmas or Thanksgiving that year. It was a big hit with my family. My family wouldn't consider themselves gamers, but they love every game I bring home. So that's a win for me. Every year since then, they said, bring home the Christmas game. And the Christmas game is Azul simply because I have this burlap bag with a picture of Santa on the cover of it. So no complaints, but yeah, Azul is my family's favorite Christmas game. I think Azul will stand the test of time. I think people in 50 years will still be playing Azul. I think it's one of the games of our current bubble that will survive. Designer there, Michael Kiesling. Let's see. He did Heaven and Ale from the same year. He did To Call. I don't know any of his other games, actually.
He worked often with Wolfgang Kramer on a number of games. Oh. They've done like Wandering Towers more recently, Renature, nice. Stuff like that, as a duo. So yeah, it's I'd say designer with a huge pedigree, definitely designing something with massive staying power. I take it back. I've played Maharaja. He's also done a bunch of other Azul games. I've played probably all of them, and they haven't really done much for me. I think it's an interesting object lesson in the difference between a very good game and a classic. Like I'm seeing here that Azul Summer Pavilion is the rank 231 on BGG. I think that's pretty high. And yeah, that's a good game, but it's not Azul. You only get so many Azuls in your career. I think it's a classic, and we'll be playing it in 50 years. Yeah, absolutely. I'd go so far out to say that it's like probably guaranteed long-term stable. So, invest now and hold, because value only goes up. And that's Azul from 2017.
Yeah, I would have sworn it was older than that, but no, it's only 8 years old.
Yeah, it's a youngin in the stability metrics. Well, talking about youngins, I'm going to be talking about oldins, and I'm talking about Texas Hold'em. It rhymed, I guess. Specifically, Texas Hold'em. I think in the past we've said poker, but I don't actually mean that, because I've tried the other versions and I still have yet to understand them in any meaningful way. But it seems that Texas Hold'em specifically, I guess we don't know exactly where it originated or who came up with it, but it seemed to have arose in America in particular in around the late 1950s, early 60s. And I was reading about it on Wikipedia, and I'm fascinated that like one of the earliest sort of pioneers in some respects to like advocate for the game was a guy named Corky McCorquodale. I just love that fact.
Amazing.
More and more recently, like it's becoming hard for me to like stop myself from thinking I could become like a semi-pro.
Wow. Yeah.
part of the problem is the gang, which hashtag new game alert,
Right.
as we like to say on this. So we can't really talk too much about that, but it definitely sort of like invited me into thinking about poker and sort of wondering about what the dynamics are when betting is actually part of the game. And then recently I read, or rather listened to the audiobook for a book called The Biggest Bluff by Maria Konnikova. And this is an interesting book because it's a memoir about a woman who literally didn't know how many cards are in a standard poker deck, asking one of the Poker Hall of Famers, Eric Seidel, to teach her how to be good enough at poker to, I think her ambition was to actually get a World Series of Poker bracelet.
Oh, wow.
And I won't spoil it entirely, but her journey is fascinating. And the way she describes poker, and not just what it means to play it. It's not like a technical book. It's not like a how to do what I did book, because not everyone could just call up Eric Seidel and be like, teach me to play poker. But the ways of thinking that she gets into, the philosophy of it, the way that like almost everything you do in your life is like a little bit of a gamble. Every job you accept, every relationship you build, like in some ways, like we're all sort of gambling. We're taking a risk on something that we don't know exactly how it's going to play out. And the best poker players seem to, on some level, understand how to mitigate the risks and maximize those rewards to the uncertainty. And so she was trying to actually take a philosophical approach and apply it, almost backfill it to her personal life, the lessons that she was getting out of Texas Hold'em and poker. And so because of that book, I've just been like fascinated with this lately, and I haven't been playing it that much, which is unfortunate. But I don't know where you would stand on this. I know it's like for some people, they don't touch it with a 40-foot pole because they hate losing money so much that they're never even going to, take a stab. But I assume you've probably played it once or twice in your life.
Yeah. So I have a couple different thoughts here. One is I'm kind of a magpie. I love playing a game a few times, but once I start figuring out the meta or even realizing there is a meta, I kind of lose interest in the game. I'd rather just play something new. I think that's probably tight. And I don't really like rewatch movies. If I really love it, I might watch it again in a few years, but I don't, watch movies over and over. I'd rather watch a new movie. And I feel that sort of the same about games. The one exception is the game I by far have played more than any other game in my life is Dominion, because of the, back in the day, the excellent isotropic implementation, pouring out a little bit of my beer for it. And then the new app is really good. I'd like to do a documentary about all the struggles that went into them never being able to do a Dominion app. But finally, there is a good one. And what's interesting about it is, every person on Earth, certainly every man on Earth of a certain age, believes that if he throws himself into something, he can become the best at it, like no one ever was. And I still believe that. Like, I believe that, if I just put my mind into something, like I could still become a surgeon, if I just locked myself up in a cabin and studied anatomy books. And yet I have played probably 20,000 games of Dominion, and I am a mediocre player at best. So it's one of those things where if it doesn't stand up to the dream of it doesn't stand up to the reality. But yeah, so I like the idea of the drive of saying, I'm going to become really good at poker and I'm just going to throw myself into it. And I'm interested to follow your journey and see how you go. It's not for me because I'm clearly I can play thousands and thousands of games and not get better. And it's funny, like with Dominion specifically, I'm always like, why am I so bad at this game? Why can't I get better at this game? Just because I never look at the board before playing or want to find out about interactions or do any research or think through a strategy. It's like, yeah, that's why you're bad. Yeah. You're completely impatient. So at least I know why I'm not good.
As soon as you hit the point where like getting better would actually require like studying and learning and note taking and experimentation and mentorship or anything else that would be like a true investment, you're like, maybe I'll just play a different game.
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly like,
I get it.
My argument is basically like, why can't I get better at this game just because I'm not interested in doing anything that would make me better at this game? The other thought I have about No Limit or about Texas Hold'em is that I don't think we talk about gambling enough in the board game world. And I think there are games that are better if there's a little bit on the line, even if it's just a few bucks. I love Skull as a design. I don't think Skull works if you're not at least betting a couple bucks, because if you're, I don't have the gambling gene. So let me say that if you have the gene that enjoys gambling, maybe don't bring it into your board game table. But for me, Skull needs a little bit of skin in the game, because otherwise you could, as soon as it's your turn, be like, I'll flip 3. I don't care. But if you're going to lose a couple bucks, if you're going to lose the equivalent of like a Diet Coke, maybe you're playing just a little bit more strategically. And I think that's what's pretty interesting about Texas Hold'em, is that there is kind of a hook there to keep you into the game. There's something that matters to you about it. It's not just a whatever game. Yeah,
it's interesting how you're talking about gambling isn't brought up enough, like in board gaming, and it's in a direction of like we should bring more gambling into board games, because I think there's a particular aversion in the US, and I'm really curious where it comes from. Like, imagine it's the same movement as like prohibition and stuff. Probably all goes back to that, originates with that. It's wild to me that I can sit and watch the fucking like football games on TV and see ads for Kalshi, which is like literally just a like gamble on the future. Literally like how good are you at predicting the future.com.
Right.
And put real money on the line for it. And it's like, that's legal, but playing poker online is like completely suspect in the United States right now still. And we've known since the 90s when they came out with rounders that like poker is a skill-based game. Right. You will defeat Russian John Malkovich if you're, sexy enough.
Yeah, I love Paul from Shut Up and Sit Down. I sound like a fanboy now quoting him twice, but Paul was really into poker. And he has a great quote that like, at a certain point, you're just staying up all night doing math at Chinese people, who are trying to do math at you at the same time. Like the joy of the game goes away pretty quickly.
You're just up super late at the fucking Taj Mahal. Like, what is my life? Yeah. I'm sure some amount of that is in my future.
You know the line about professional gamblers. If they say they're up, it means they're down. If they say they're breaking even, it means they're really down. They don't build those places to give money away.
Yeah.
But I hear you about sports gambling. Like I listen to sports talk radio sometimes. I'm not a big sports guy, but sometimes NPR is being boring. So I hit, and it's just all about sports gambling. Just these guys just talking about gambling around the clock now. And that's so sad to me. And then, but at the same time, like if you watch like a John Boy clip on YouTube or any sports clip on YouTube where the sponsor's DraftKings, there has to be like a 5-minute disclaimer at the end. It's like, so these guys can just talk about sports gambling all day because it's editorial. But as soon as it becomes a paid promotion, I don't know. I don't think the answer is to not warn people. I think the answer is to put some restrictions, put some guardrails around being able to talk about it. It's crazy to me. I cannot, I feel like we're living, I know this is a cliche at this point. It really does feel like we're living in the Biff version of Back to the Future 2, where gambling is just so widespread.
It should be like legalized and regulated, almost the same vibe as like drugs. Like, sure, it's legal, but people need to be informed, and there needs to be outlets for recovery and escape. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't ruin your life with this stuff. That we should just restructure society somewhat so that we can all play Texas Hold'em more. That's what I'm trying to get at. At some point it's going to hit a breaking point, and I expect there will be really overzealous legislation against it at some point. That's my prediction. It's gonna have some sort of like side effects that no one was asking for. What I mean?
It feels like one of those things where it'll be almost unanimous when it happens, and everyone will just be like, you know what, our bad. That wasn't a good idea. We're just gonna walk it back, and everyone's like, yeah, that's probably a good idea.
100 games to play before you die.
All right. It's part of the show where we talk about the 100 games that you are required to play before you turn 100 years old or die, whichever one comes first. Congratulations continue to go out to Dick Van Dyke for turning 100 years old. I hope you played all these games. But I need to find like the next celebrity to allude to. There was one I looked up the other day, and I think their birthday was in May, but I forgot who it was exactly. And I was like, oh, they're still alive. But it's not, I don't think they have nearly the same celebrity. Anyway, game number 58 on this list. This is a list that Kenny came up with to try and capture the entire world of board games, if you will. So if you played all of these, you've basically played every game ever. And number 58 is YINSH, spelled YINSH, from 2003, designed by Kris Brum and published by Huch. YINSH. So this, normally I'd say, Kenny, why is this on the list? But Eize, why is this on the list?
Well, it's the holiday episode, and you're a mean one, Mr. YINSH, is probably why he picked it. So yeah, YINSH is part of the GIPF project, which is a series of, I don't remember how many, originally 6, but I think it's more than that. 6 abstract games designed by Kris Brum. They all have kind of nonsense names, like Punkt. One of the hallmarks of the GIPF series is that typically you don't have pieces that are yours, that there's a common pool of pieces. I believe that's also true. It's been a while since I played YINSH. I apologize if I get a few of the details wrong.
We're more about vibes on this show anyway. So what's the vibe? What's the motivation? What does this represent in gaming?
Let me, as a guest, you won't stop me. Like, I'm in your home. So let me instead talk about another GIPF game that I love, which is ZERTZ. ZERTZ actually is probably on the very short list of my favorite games of all time.
Okay, sure.
YINSH is great. It's probably my second favorite of the GIPF games. If people are aware of me or just from me talking in this episode, I tend to like lighter games. It's kind of a surprise that most of my favorite games, though, are abstracts. I think it kind of comes back to being a kid in the 80s and seeing, adult board games. And these adult board games were always like these abstract games from the 70s with marbles. I'd see them in like Omni magazine and be like, when I grow up, that's the kind of game I'm going to play. So
there's reverence built in. Yeah.
So sorry to Kenny that I'm not talking about YINSH because I'm not super familiar with it, but I am familiar with ZERTZ. So ZERTZ is a game that has a shrinking board. It starts out with a kind of a hexagon made up of smaller pieces. And as you place pieces, you pull pieces away from the board. So every time you play, the board gets smaller and more cramped. Again, one of the hallmarks of the series is you're placing pieces that aren't yours. You're just placing pieces on the board. It has a checkers-like mechanic where if you see a jump, you have to take it. And a big part of the game, just like in checkers, but much more complex, is setting up a jump that someone has to take, which then sets you up to jump 5 pieces, for example. I love the shrinking board. I love the mechanic. And it's such a great game to just have out. Because one thing, it's beautiful. It's these black and white speckled marbles that set up on these little stands. But it's also great for people who think they're not gamers. I have my own custom version that I made, which is much smaller than the real game. And it's self-contained. So instead of marbles, it uses like little glass gumdrops. So it's great to like be at Starbucks with somebody and be like, hey, do you want to play this little game? And you just set it up. And it has a feature that I love in board gaming. It's probably my favorite thing in all of board gaming, where you introduce a game to someone and they're not really paying attention. They're just whatever, blah, blah, and they're having fun. And then there comes a moment where they go from, oh, this is fun, to they're staring a hole into the board with their hand up against their forehead, running through all the different possibilities. Like ZERTZ just clicks for people. And you really lock into it. So I think it's great. I think I would recommend it to anyone who's a fan of board games, especially abstract games. Since I'm already not talking about YINSH, let me further talk about even another game that's not even part of the GIPF project, Another game that's a lot like ZERTZ that I would recommend to fans of abstracts is what seems to be a silly little game about penguins called Hey, That's My Fish. But that's just the theme. The Hey, That's My Fish is actually a perfect information abstract with the same sort of mechanic of a shrinking board. And it is a game that if you have friends who aren't gamers, you can set it up and there's like, hey, play this silly little game with me. And within 5 minutes, they will be so locked into this game, you're going to spend the rest of the evening playing it. Highly recommend it.
We've been talking about Hey, That's My Fish quite a bit. And it's designed by Gunter Cornet and Alvidis Jakaliunas? Jakaliunas? I don't know. Lithuanian names.
I would love a truly abstract version of Hey, That's My Fish. I'm not kidding. If you're a woodworker and you would like a commission to make a beautiful edition of Hey, That's My Fish for me, I understand that's not a cheap proposal. Reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it because it's possibly my favorite game alongside with ZERTZ. So
whether it's ZERTZ or YINSH or GIF, or even Hey, That's My Fish to some extent, I think at the end of the day, the reason that this is in the list is because it represents the quintessential abstract. It's sort of, and it, I think Kenny in particular really wanted to highlight the Kris Brum GIF series. So it sounds like you sort of disagree with him in terms of putting YINSH as the flag bearer for these titles. Maybe it should have been ZERTZ. I don't know. I'm not sure if Kenny's played ZERTZ, but you can pick from any of the 6. It's like a category that sort of has a superposition of 6 board games. The Kris Brum GIF series, almost any single one of these can stand in.
Yeah, the GIF series is a monumental series. It's a masterpiece. Any of the games I would recommend picking up. Personally, I prefer ZERTZ, but that doesn't mean I think YINSH is a bad pick to stand in for them. Funny, Kris Brum is a really interesting guy. He's a Belgian, I think. And he has only created abstracts with one exception. The only game he's made that's not an abstract game is a game from 97 called Dice Master, which is a collectible dice game, which is very funny to like. Oh, I've made only abstracts and then one game where you got to pay for extra dice.
Yeah. So. It's like if Richard Garfield made Magic the Gathering and then went on and did nothing but checkers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my overview of YINSH. Play Hey, That's My Fish and ZERTZ.
Honestly, I love that. All right. Okay, it's time to stop yapping. Time to stop bullshitting. It's time to quit the nonsense. Talking about gambling, talking about YINSH, all these made up words. It's time to get into the real business of the episode, the true meat and potatoes. So the part of the show that people come back for week after week, the only part that they listen to. They skip all the rest. They jump right into this, Yeah. All that stuff we said before, none of it matters anymore. It's time to talk about games that you play around the holidays, the ones under the Christmas tree, the Christmas game, copy of Azul that you pirated from the hardware store. What are you bringing to the table? Yeah, so you picked this topic, notably.
Yes.
And it seems like you had a lot of ideas that you wanted to get out there. So I'm going to let you drive this umbrella.
So I've picked a selection of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 7 or 8 games that are all Christmas themed that I'd like to run through. They're not by any means all the Christmas games out there. I want to thank Ada from Peace, Love, and Games. She helped me put this list together. She has an enormous collection. And she's a very thoughtful gamer, a thoughtful collector. And so she gave me a lot of help with this. So thank you, Ada, for doing that. And in fact, yeah. I want everyone listening to send some healing vibes to Ada from Peace, Love, and Games because she recently broke her shoulder. So she is recuperating. No. Please send her good vibes. So
real quick, sorry, but I wanted to mention we discard nuance on this show. We're not a fan, right? It's all about the content. So as far as we're concerned, this is the definitive list.
Very
Once
good.
For all, objectively,
yes.
We figured it out.
These are the best games for Christmas. Absolutely. So I'm going to start off with my personal favorite Christmas game, which is 12 Days. 12 Days is so good that I wish it had a non-Christmas version. The designers on it is kind of crazy. It was by James Ernest, who did Lords of Vegas, Tack, Kill Dr. Lucky, and Mike Selinker, who also co-designed Lords of Vegas, and freaking Axis of Allies. Hey, anybody want to play a card game by the dude who made Axis and Allies? Well, here's your chance.
Okay.
So 12 Days is it's an auction card game, and it's kind of like No Thanks. It has this really clever theme, which is you're trying to get rid of cards, and the cards represent unwanted gifts. The deck is really interesting, too. Again, it's very thematic. It's actually a bit like Flip 7 in that the deck has one card that's a partridge in a pear tree, two cards that are turtle doves, et cetera, all the way up to there are 12 cards that are drummers drumming. It's a great auction game. I really love it. Again, I wish there was a non-Christmas version because I just forget about it. And, I bring it out after Halloween, and every year on December 19th, I'm like, geez, I should be playing 12 Days more during the year.
Yeah, I wonder how you could do an anime re-theme with this one.
Exactly. Next game on the list is Winter Court. This is probably the newest Christmas game on the list. It is by Tom Lehman, who you guys probably know for Race for the Galaxy, Res Arcana. Came out just last year. It's technically a card game, but just like Race for the Galaxy, there's a lot going on with the cards.
Wait a second. Did you say this game came out last year?
Yeah, 2024.
That's illegal on this show.
Oh, no.
We only talk about the shelf-stable games.
No, I'm sorry. Do not play Winter Court. Whatever you do.
We always have to warn our listeners. The stability of this game is undetermined.
Right.
Okay? All right? We can make no qualitative claims about this game.
My apologies.
But continue.
Yeah, it's it's technically a card game, but there's also like meeples on the cards, and you kind of make a lane, and it's about as board game as a card game can be and still be a card game.
Okay. Oh, I'm curious because the idea of lane battling like Doxer versus Vixen sounds kind of sick. And Tom Lehman, I mean, that's a name you can trust. Exactly. In theory.
Let's see. The next game I brought for us on the list is the Christmas edition of Nana, N-A-N-A. That's the Japanese name. In the US, it's been republished as Trio. It's a memory game, a really fun memory game. Highly recommended. If I can name drop, when Trio's on Board Game Arena, and without thinking, I got into a async game of Trio with, again, Ada from Peace Loving Games and Plumpy Thimble. And without any of us thinking that an async multi-day game of a memory game is a nightmare because you can't remember 5 minutes ago, much less like 3 days later when it's your turn where any card was. And just out of this kind of masochistic comedy, we just kept playing. It took us about 4 months to finish the game because, you'd come back 2 days later and you couldn't even remember anything about the game.
That's so good.
So Nana is the Japanese version. I'm a snob, so I'm a hipster and a snob, and I prefer the Nana artwork. It's the kind of cutesy, kind of Sanrio.
Yeah.
Then the Christmas edition of Nana is how a Christmas edition or special edition should be done, which is it's an established game, but it's Christmas themed. That's it. They don't throw in some variants. They don't throw in weird new rules. It's just, it understands that people like us need to play games with our family and with people who aren't gamers, our coworkers, whatever. And it's like, instead of trying to give you some other game that might be worse, here's just the game itself, but it has different colors. And that leads me to the Patchwork Winter Edition, which I believe is just the game Patchwork. It's a 2-player game, but it's really lovely. If you like Patchwork, I'm sure you'll like this. It's really nice to see Patchwork with presents and jingle bells, and I think there's a little Santa Claus appearance in the game as well.
It's mildly frustrating for me, someone who is dating a sewist, that they have seemingly yet created a version of Patchwork that actually seems to appeal to quilt makers. I could be mistaken, and maybe she has a taste that is just very specialized, but I've shown her a couple different versions of Patchwork, and she's never thought that the patches themselves were very cute. I know there's a new version that's coming out that has what I think is actually pretty cool artwork, but it still doesn't really have quilt vibes exactly. And I'm looking at the Christmas edition that you're talking about, and it's all wrapped presents. There's you can see the ribbon on it and stuff. And I'm like, a Christmas colored like actual quilts, because Christmas, like quilts are designed for Christmas to a certain extent. They often have like wintry holiday themes. I mean, it's a big blanket, so like you're meant to get in under it. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't take it in that direction. That they instead did like wrapped gifts as like the aesthetic choice. Not to shit on your pick. This is the definitive list of games that everyone should be playing at the holidays. Right. But still.
Yes. The definitive list of games, Ada said, hey, talk about this. And I said, okay, thank you. So yeah, that's the Patchwork Winter Edition. Next on the list is the holiday version of Spot It, which other people might know as Dobble. What is that, like a US UK division? I don't actually know, but I know it's Dobble somewhere. And
I'm sure Dobble's like the German name for it or something. Yeah. So, if you know Spot It, I'm sure you know what we're talking about. It's kind of a hot potato game. It's a matching game. Has kind of a Where's Waldo vibe. This is just like the Nana Christmas edition. It's just the game with Christmas stuff in it. It's not a variation. And there are probably 500 editions of Spot It. So if you want one, Spot It's a great game to have out for. If you're having a bunch of family members come and they don't think they're gamers, you get it out and you get like one or two kids to play with you, and people are going to come over and watch, and then they get involved, and then you can kind of pull them into the game. Alternatively, they have a Frozen edition, so you can also do that to have a wintry theme that will also convince the kids at your holiday gathering to play with you, I assume.
There's a popular YouTube channel called Stand Up Maths, has about 1 million subscribers, and he has a great video from a few years ago about the math behind Spot It and Dobble and how it's actually pretty complex, how they make these pieces so that they work. And we'll put a link to that video in the description.
There's an Animal Crossing edition. Holy shit. I actually kind of need that. Oh, wow. Like I like Spot It okay. I mean, I think it is great, especially for kids. Yeah. But the Animal Crossing edition looks amazing. Yeah. What? Holy cow. Yeah.
Speaking of animals and games for kids, Animal Upon Animal, if you have kids, if you've ever asked about games for very young kids, if you've ever read a geek list about games for very young kids, because if we're board gamers, we cannot wait for these dumb kids to get old enough to play with us. That's why we had them, so we would have someone to play games with.
Yeah.
We have Animal Upon Animal is always recommended. I think probably around 4 years old is about when you can start playing. Well, there's a Christmas edition. I think it's just a retheme. I haven't played it, but yeah, this is a great game. If your kids already love Animal Upon Animal, grab it, and then you can play it at Christmas.
And you can mix and match it with the other versions. I mean, honestly, the sky's the limit. You can have the unicorn version and this version right next to each other. It'd be great.
Oh yeah. Kids really love this game. So, and if you get enough drinks in you after the kids go to bed, you could probably have a pretty fun drunken game of Animal Upon Animal as well. So, the next game on the list is such a slam dunk. It's the Christmas edition of Love Letter, called Letters to Santa. It's just Love Letter Christmas. And the thing I really like about this game is that it's just Love Letter. So just like Spot It, Love Letter has 500 variations, but so many of them add like a different rule or like a little variant card. And I understand why you want to do that. You want to make it more collectible, right? Like if all the games were exactly the same, most people would just buy one copy. But at the same time, it still stinks to I like Batman, but I don't necessarily want to play the Batman version of Love Letter. I just want to play Love Letter. So the nice thing about Letters to Santa is you can play the OG version of Love Letter at Christmas.
I actually owned the Batman version of Love Letter for such a long time. It's kind of funny. I don't remember it having any rules that were weird exceptions. Oh, okay. But the Adventure Time version of Love Letter is my go-to. And that one does have a special rule just for the hero card, or it's called hero, but it's the number 5. It's like where it makes you discard
Right.
another player's card. If you play the 5 and it discards the other 5, you win that round on the spot because they're represented by Finn and Jake, the brothers of the show.
I swear sometimes when I'm walking up to my game store, I can see the owner look over at his manager and be like, watch this, I'm going to milk this whale. And because of that, I own so many copies of Love Letter, a game I think is just fine. Like, you know, I like the game a lot, but I don't need the 9 copies of Love Letter I have. So like I walk in and he's like, hey, what's new? And he's like, I got Love Letter. He's like, I don't need another copy of Love Letter. And he's like, well, what if it's the Japanese edition? I'm like, I got you there. I already got the Japanese edition. He goes, do you have this oversized edition? I'm like, oh my God, how much?
I love it conceptually. You walk in just like, yeah, could I get a dozen red roses, please?
Yeah.
It's just like, sure. But before you go, have you noticed we've got this new version of Love Letter too? And you're like, like I was going to use that $12 to buy a sandwich. Like, you know,
let's see. Up next on my list is Boop the Halls. So Boop actually fits in well with our earlier discussion about Hey, That's My Fish, which is that Boop is actually a pretty deep abstract game. And it has kind of a cute theme kind of painted on it. And it's great too in that you can play it pretty light. But if you really want to get into it, you can play a pretty strategic game of Boop. Boop's on BGA. It's a fun game. Highly recommend checking it out. And it has a really cute theme, which is you're trying to boop cats off of your bed. So Boop the Halls, though, is unlike, say, Letters to Santa. It's not just a straight re-theme. It's really kind of a new game. And the new game is it takes the game to the 3rd dimension. So instead of just having a flat bed, now it's almost like a Star Trek chess. There's 4 different levels. It's literally a 3-dimensional little board. And it's such a great theme, which is instead of trying to get cats off the bed, you're trying to get cats off the Christmas tree. Like the cats are climbing your Christmas tree and you're trying to get them off.
I like the images that I'm seeing of this. Yeah. I love the idea too, because I've played the original Boop, which is a very surprisingly thinky game. And I think it even says that on the box. It's just like, you may not expect this, but it's actually chess for checkers heads. And you're like, what? And then you play it. But I love that if that wasn't enough for you, like the original Boop, which already has a lot of like thinky, you know, the abstract vibes. They're like, what if it's in 4D? Because that's what you get. And it's great, too, that it's the holiday edition because, your family's going to gather around this and be like, I'm intrigued. And then they actually play it and they're like, I'm going to bed like after one game because it's such a brain burner, honestly. And
I like the instinct to take a flat game and make it 3-dimensional. You know, there's a game Blockus, and for a short while they marketed a re-theme of an earlier game called Roomies as Blockus 3D, where you're not just playing Blockus, you're playing with actual 3D blocks and kind of slotting them together. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Speaking of classic games from that era, the last item on my list, the list of the only Christmas games ever made, is Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries. Now, this isn't really a Christmas game, but you know, it's about 19th century trains and there's snow in it. Like that's a Christmas game. So I think a lot of people think this is one of the best Ticket to Ride games, especially for low player counts. It's only designed for 2 to 3 players. And it has a much heavier focus on blocking opponents and then like really aggressive play. So if you like your Christmases shouty and fighty and screwing over your family or your friends, Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries is for you. I saw just before we recorded that it had been re-implemented as Ticket to Ride Northern Lights. I don't know anything about that. Do you?
I don't. No, that's wild.
Yeah. So if anyone out there knows what, say in the comments if you think Northern Lights is actually better than Nordic Countries, and we'll delete the episode.
It'll be gone from the internet for sure.
I will say I still really love Ticket to Ride. I think it's a classic. I mean, that's not exactly a hot take, but and
watch out for this guy. Yeah. He's serious.
Controversy rocks the board game world as Eize Basa comes on to say he loves Ticket to Ride. And I will say, you know, there's a bunch of variations on Ticket to Ride. I still like the OG game. I think it's the best one. I think the others make it more complex, but not necessarily more fun. I mean, that's not like a hot take. I'll play Ticket to Ride Europe. I'll play any of them or the other maps. I like the original rule set. I think it's the simplest and most interesting rule set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kenny famously is like a low-key hater of Ticket to Ride, and he always likes to bring up Ethnos as an alternative kind of like Ticket to Ride 2 of sorts. And I fucking hate Ethnos, but I love Ticket to Ride still. So I'm in your camp, I just want to say.
Tom, mute your microphone for a second. I'm going to speak directly to Kenny. Kenny, I love Ethnos.
No!
I think it's funny. I was just talking to someone. I'm not going to name drop. I'm going to do something even more pretentious and not name drop and just kind of be like, I shan't reveal who it was. But I was talking to a big name game designer and owner of a publishing company just last night. And we were talking about games we'd like to see get revitalized. And I said, Ethnos has been reprinted 4 times now, and it flopped every time. And I still believe in my heart that Ethnos deserves a 5th chance, or maybe it's been 3 times and it deserves a 4th chance. I can't remember. I think Days of Wonder should pick it up and make it part of the Small World line, make it a Small World game.
I think Small World Ethnos is actually such a perfect pitch. I hope they hear this and that happens somehow for them. At the same time as I don't care for that game. I don't know what it is. It just is like does not juice me in any way.
So since we're talking about Christmas games, I wanted to end on Ticket to Ride because my father, my late father, who passed away about 15 years ago, he wasn't a gamer. He wasn't a gamer type. He was a mechanic who worked on big truck engines. He loved Ticket to Ride. It was the only game he wanted to play. And it's actually this kind of funny thing where he loved it so much when they came out with the 2-player version, I called him and I was like, hey Dad, they have this 2-player version. Maybe you get it for you and Mom. Cause my mom liked to play it too. And he couldn't even really understand what I meant. Like, what do you mean I could get it? It's like, well, you could buy it. And he's like, I don't want to buy it. I got you have it. This shows you the kind of hurdle the board game industry has to overcome getting people into the hobby. But my dad loved Ticket to Ride so much, and he was so aggressive. He wasn't an aggressive man, but he was aggressive about Ticket to Ride. And even now when I play it, it's like I have a kind of friendly, loving PTSD because if you look, for example, if you drew extra destination tickets, you basically skipped your turn. You drew tickets and then you had everyone else's turn to come up. So somebody was waiting for this, no, just go. It doesn't matter. What do you just go. And if you're playing placing trains on the map, it was the next person's turn. We would play these speed games of Ticket to Ride. So if I'd be like, okay, I'm going to place five trains between Little Rock and Nashville or whatever. And if the next player just was paused to watch me put out the trains, he's like, what are you, the OSHA inspector? Just play. It doesn't matter. He's putting them on the board. What are you waiting on? I'm making him sound like such a dick. Yeah. He wasn't. This was well-meaning, but we would play games of Ticket to Ride in 7 minutes because he kept pushing us through all of it. And the games, eventually we played so much, the games became completely streamlined where, the first 2 or 3 rounds of every game of Ticket to Ride with my family was just everyone buying up all the one tracks and then everyone buying up the 2 tracks. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the game, everyone just could not finish anything because we'd all jammed the board up within the first 2 minutes of the game. I love it. I'd love to, not to get corny, but we're thinking about the Christmas and the holidays. I would love to play a game of Ticket to Ride with my dad one more time. He loved this game so much. And, this is one of the incredible things about board games is it allows us to sit down at a table with a shared fiction, a shared set of rules, and and get to know each other. And my dad wasn't a gamer; he wasn't that kind of guy. But we could all sit down and kind of come to an agreement that this was a thing we were going to do together. And for all my cynicism, that's something that I think is. I hate to say it, it's magical. It's magical about the hobby. There's a lot of things about the hobby I don't love, but that's one of the things that overcomes everything else is this idea that even if it's just a few minutes, all these people in your life could sit down and agree to do something together for a few minutes and in the process grow a little bit closer. So I hope everyone has that experience this holiday season with whatever games they choose to play.
I am going to go against my instincts here and not undermine the sentimental moment that you've brought to our show, because I really do agree. I think it's like beautiful that that board games are designed functionally to become haunted in a positive way, like imbued in a sense with like the spirit of someone who sort of like changed your life forever. I love the fact that you have that with your dad, like a game that simply reminds you of him. In some ways, there are like friends who have come and gone from my life that will always haunt my copy of Eclipse, for example, because it was one of the earliest games that I would bring to table with like as many people as possible. And there was it's almost like how I got to know my ex-wife was like over that game.
Oh, wow.
And even now, like that's not even like a bad thing for me. It's like it's great that it still sort of like instills stuff like that for me. And I'm sure what I'm playing now is going to affect me in that way in the future. Me and Kenny, Android Netrunner, like this, my entire relationship to this show is like built on board gaming, of course, right? And so that really is what it's all about. It's harvesting people's spirit and putting it in the physical artifacts so that they're there with you forever in a certain way. Yeah, it's fantastic.
You know, one of the drawbacks of this hobby is that I think it's the only non-sport hobby that you really can't do by yourself, right? Like if you're a woodworker, you can do woodworking by yourself. It's, you know, if even golf, like you can go play golf by yourself. You can't really play board games by yourself. Yeah, I know there are solo gamers. Here's my hot take. Let's all just admit we're fooling ourselves. We'd rather play with somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's worth it, right? Like we do so many things in this hobby to kind of get around this thing of we need other people to play with. You know, that's why we get into, for example, solo gaming or sleeving our cards or doing upgrades or endlessly shopping for a board game table. These are all things we can do by ourselves because we can't play with other people. And it sucks. And it's all worth it though. If you have some folks over for 20 minutes or an hour or a couple hours and you're eating snacks and you're playing a game and maybe it's not the game you wanted to play. Maybe you had the hotness, but the wrong number of people showed up or someone rudely brought their own copy of the game, of their own game that you didn't even want to play. It's like, man, I don't want to play this stupid game, but it's worth it. Even if it's not something you wanted to do, if everyone sits together and you have a good time, because it's a good time that you invented together. The board game designers and publishers are part of it, but it's not like watching a movie. You're not zoned out. It's a good time that you've built yourself around the table. And again, I don't mean to get so corny, but since this is the Christmas show, that is something that, for lack of a better word, is magical, and it makes all the other indignities of being in this hobby worth it. And so I just hope everyone listening has that experience this holiday season.
Absolutely. And to that end, I just want to say we're sorry to have almost exclusively, I think, highlighted Christmas specific games when there technically are a number of holidays that occur in this time of year. I am sure there are some we are missing, but at the same time, I honestly could not speak to very much outside of Christmas games.
One thing I will say that a lot of the games that we've already talked about as Christmas games are actually winter versions of games or just kind of generic holiday games. Like Patchwork is just the winter edition. Nordic Countries isn't even a holiday. So Christmas does kind of have a monopoly on these games. Hanukkah doesn't really have any games, I think, because Hanukkah is kind of based around a game. So there's not that I know of. I mean, please leave a message if there's a really great Hanukkah game I don't know about. Now there are, historical board games about, the Jewish people in Old Testament times. And I found some war games that are, modern day, games about Israel. I cannot imagine me doing the holiday specials. And for the holiday, here's a war game about the IDF. I don't think that's in the spirit of what we're talking about right now. So if you're a designer and you're looking for a great theme for a game, make a Hanukkah game. Make a small, cheap Hanukkah game so it could be for one of the days of Hanukkah. It doesn't need to be a giant box, just a little card game. I'm sure there's something you could come up with. Designers constantly impress me with their ingenuity, and I bet a lot of people could come up with some really great ideas for a Hanukkah game.
Honestly, the menorah seems like an underutilized game piece in particular to me, as someone who knows very little about Jewish culture.
Yeah, it's like a victory point tracker. You're lighting the different candles.
Yeah, there you go.
And, make a Kwanzaa game.
Yeah.
Or winter solstice games.
The funny thing is that you mentioning that there are like games about settling Israel or whatever, is that there is a game called The Settlers of Canaan.
Yes.
Which it's still in my parents' house. I grew up playing this because that's what I think they bought us for Christmas instead of actual Catan. We ended up getting this. One thing I think is really funny is that like Klaus Teuber is the credited designer on Board Game Geek. And I'm like, I don't think he had anything to actually do with this version. Yeah. It might be kind of unfair for a number of reasons. Maybe he did, but it's published by Cactus Game Design. So it's like, I don't think they're related. Also, the card quality, card stock in this box is so ass. Have you played this though, incidentally?
No. What are the gameplay differences?
The biggest one is that it's it's a fixed map for one. And then part of the game, and I forget exactly how it works, is that one of the things you can spend your resources on is building the wall of Jerusalem.
Right. I was wondering if that was the one with the wall. Right.
I might have to try and get my brothers to like play this with me like this weekend while they're in town. I sort of dread it at the same time because I imagine a lot of the pieces are just straight up missing at this point. So I'm not going to necessarily work that hard to do it.
This actually segues really well into the last thing I wanted to say about holiday games, which is if you are going to be playing Settlers of Catan this week, there is a variant I highly recommend, which is very small. It's known as the food stamps variant, which is probably a little offensive. I've also heard the German version name translates to "There's no shame in poverty." It's very simple. All you need is a bunch of pennies, and whenever the dice, whenever you don't produce anything, you get a penny or a chit or whatever. And then during the trading session of your round or of your turn, you can trade chits equal to the number of points you have for a resource. So if you have 2 points, you can trade 2 chits to get a brick, a stone, whatever you need. Here's why that's genius. It speeds up the very, very boring beginning of Settlers of Catan or just Catan, because at the beginning of the game, everyone needs the same thing. Everyone needs brick and wood to make roads, so there's no trading. So if you get these chits that you can trade, then it builds the game up and you get into the mid game, which is much more interesting, much faster. And the nice thing about it is it's equal to the number of points. So the longer you play, the more worthless these chits are. They start as being pretty valuable. Can you trade them? I don't know. Look up the rules. I can't remember. But as they go on, they just, all it really does is gives you a nice runway. It gets you in the air faster. If you take one thing away from my visit is if you're playing Settlers of Catan, look up the food stamp variant. I think it was officially published as an official variant. I can't remember the name. Maybe it's in Fisherman of Catan or something. But yes, that's the takeaway. Learn the food stamp variant of, or whatever the non-offensive version is.
The politically correct and woke version.
Right. I feel bad keeping saying it, but that's what I know it as, and that's what it was called. So yeah, if you're going to play Catan over the holidays, look up this variant. It's very lightweight. It only adds like 2 rules to the game, and it's going to make your life a lot better because it gets you into the mid game much faster.
I'm very curious to try out this version for myself. I'll probably almost definitely have to do it. With that said, I think we're kind of ready to wrap up. I don't know if you had any last minute thoughts there.
That was it. Thank you for having me on. I have nothing to promote. Isn't that refreshing? I don't know what to say. Follow me. Follow Eize Basa.baby on Blue Sky. That's it.
Yeah. All one word, EIZEBASA. Give this guy a follow because number one, you're a great sport. Number two, you're huge into board games. Number three, you're one of the funniest people on Blue Sky by a wide margin in my experience. My timeline is very unfunny.
Oh, yeah.
But you are like a shining star for me.
I wish there was some other place to go. like it's nice to still be around board game people, but my God, the site just does not have the juice.
Thank you so much for everyone who listened to this episode. Thank you especially to Eize for being here representing Kenny and giving us all of the thoughts and feelings that Kenny would have had. Really appreciate you simulating him. Thank you especially to Michael, Tyler, Devon, and Josh of the Boise RainBeaus for your cool segue music. And thank you to Bonehouse for letting us use your song Rot as our opening theme. You can follow Eize at eizebasa.baby. I still don't understand how any of that works. But if you're on Blue Sky, I'm sure you can figure it out. Just find the guy with the raccoon face.
Yep. Thank you for having me. This was a blast. I have a running joke on my account that, I wish people would ask me to do a podcast so I could say no. But the fact is because of that, for some reason, people don't ask me. So you guys, how did you land the elusive Eize Basa? Oh, very easy. You said, hey, do you want to be on the show? And I said, yes.
Yep.
So thank you. And I want to send much love to Kenny and his family. I hope they're doing great. And I want to say to all the listeners, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. And if you're loving the cast, share it with a friend, share it on Reddit, share it on Board Game Geek, or heck, even share it on Blue Sky. You can also reach out to the show directly at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All of this and more will be available in the show notes. If you like what Shelf Stable's doing, you want to make more of it happen, consider subscribing to their Patreon. You'll get access to bonus content, and you'll even get access to their Discord.
Yeah, our secret group where we complain about Blue Sky. Next week, we're going to do an end of the year wrap up. 2025, believe it or not, is coming to a close. And we're about to enter 2026, which means 2020 is becoming shelf stable. So that means we got a lot of games to look back on, see which ones that we're going to call canon and officially stable. So that'll be it. Kenny should be back. He'll be back in the seat, running the show, back to the usual Kiki Boba selves. We'll see you then.